This is Autism Off Limits. Two women parenting, advocating, and living the parts of autism that rarely get talked about. We go where much of the autistic community and the media won't. Raw stories, real talk, and absolutely off limits.
Welcome to Autism Off Limits. I'm Kiki Chambers, and this is my co-host, Cindy Wall. Today we're going to talk about the Autistic Barbie, which is funny because me and Cindy did not talk for about a day and a half, 2 days when it first released. And when we both called each other immediately, we're like, did you see it?
I know, right? So yes, let's talk about it. Oh my gosh. Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, ASAN. They're the ones with their logo printed on the Barbie. They're the ones that Mattel worked with, which was a very politically correct thing to do. And I don't honestly have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with them consulting with autistic self-advocates. What I personally have a problem with, and what I want to start out with today, is that group in general does not represent the needs of those with the most high support needs, or even a lot of people with low to medium support needs do not feel represented by Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. And so it would have been good if Mattel had reached out to other organizations as well to get more of a well-rounded opinion about autism. But on the other hand, a lot of people are saying that this is just a doll. We're going to discuss today about how this is not just a doll. It's about so much more, and the ideologies behind the doll.
I feel that ASAN is well aware of the divide in this community, and I think that somebody should have caught that there was going to be division by this Barbie being made. Like, I was not surprised about it, and I feel like this Barbie itself caused more division that was already there. The division was there before, but I feel like it caused more division. So I do agree that it should have been more than just one organization.
So that's interesting. I thought of something while you were talking. The divide in the community is that people are trying to make it just one thing, right? That autism is like one spectrum, and it's just autism. It's not high support needs, it's not low support needs, it's not level 1, 2, 3, it's just all autism. And I think the doll was like a physical manifestation of that. It's like, look, one doll is autistic and she has these things, and it makes her autistic. And people in the community are kind of fighting over what it even means to be autistic, or what it means to have autism. And like, our complaints, I'm not gonna speak for you, but like the people with more high support needs children, like some of us are upset because, you know, it's when the executive director of ASAN says that this fully represents the autistic community. Why? Because you just put an AAC in their hands? Like, yet everybody's saying, oh, well, one doll can't represent the whole community. Well, that's not what the executive director said. He said this fully represents the autistic community. I saw one mom who was like, you know, my daughter's really excited about this, hate this, and, you know, pointed to ASAN, and what they stand for, but my daughter's really excited. And that's so fair. I mean, two things can be true at the same time, and the internet loses nuance. We have to be able to take this monumental occasion that autism is finally represented in Barbie, and we have to be able to dissect it and be able to look at it from both ends and say, how could this have done better? But ASAN seems to be off limits. They are off limits, and you've said this before, Kiki, where why is it that ASAN seems to be that they are above any kind of criticism? It's like autistic people in general online will not go there because that's the group that they feel most represented by. But they'll oh, I see, I'm the one. I cuss first.
Get that down in the record, because that never happens. I usually cuss first, so Point for me.
I know, right?
Just play a game of who cusses first.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, God, I don't remember what I was saying. What was I saying?
That ASAN, you can't criticize them. And constantly I get online, because I criticize, I tell people I'm not judgmental, I'm opinionated. And I give my opinions on ASAN, and a lot of people are like, oh, she hates ASAN. I'm like, what? It's an organization, it's not a person, and I can give you my critiques about it.
Yeah.
Okay, like, it is very interesting on the online community, at least in the autism spaces. As an autistic person, if you don't love ASAN, then you get called, like, really outlandish names. Like,
So they
it's
are
very true.
They are not above criticism. So we are going to criticize healthily ASAN today. So I'm going to start with some information. I did some research, and what I found last night was very, very surprising.
And all these links will be in the captions, so you guys can look for yourself, as this is our perspective of what we read. If you want to go through it yourself and come up with your own, fantastic. You're more than welcome to join the discussion.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
yeah.
So the first thing that we need to preface when we talk about ASAN is a statement that they have on their website that not all autistic people are diagnosed. Whether an autistic person has an official diagnosis from a doctor or not, they are still a part of the autistic community. I can't see because of my camera. I'm going to do this. It can be really hard to get an autism diagnosis, especially for people of color, which, yes, it's true. Women and girls, trans and non-binary people, and people who figured out they were autistic when they were an adult and can cost money, or a doctor may have just got the wrong ideas about autism and want to give someone a diagnosis and not want to give someone a diagnosis. Some people just don't want a diagnosis, and that's okay too. When ASAN says the autistic community, we mean everyone, whether they have a diagnosis or not. Wow, I just disappeared. I wanted to talk about the fact that when they represent autism, that we can assume that there are a number of people, there's like 24 people in their leadership, we can assume safely that some or a lot, we don't know, because they're not public with their diagnosis, that they are self-diagnosed. And that is a big division in the community, whether or not self-diagnosis. No matter what you think about self-diagnosis, we're not going to debate that today. But no matter what you think, we have people who do not have a diagnosis that are literally making community decisions for those who do have an official diagnosis. So when someone like Mattel, reaches out to ASAN, we don't know how many of these people have an official diagnosis. And there's a lot of us who do not believe that self-diagnosed people should have the same input as officially diagnosed people.
I think, it's the nuance on the internet that comes to die, because the reality is there's certain stuff that if you're not diagnosed, like officially diagnosed, the decisions aren't going to affect you. Like, the outcome of a decision is not going to affect you on that level because you don't have the diagnosis, so there's no medical or political or any kind of policies that are going to change your experience to an extent. And then there's some where it's like, yeah, okay, like self-diagnosis, we do want your input for better diagnostic criteria, for more accessibility. Like, why aren't you getting diagnosed? Like, I, as someone who has a diagnosis, am not going to be able to put in the input to help explain why I didn't get a diagnosis, because I have one. I'm not going to give my input on that. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I didn't get a diagnosis because of X, Y, Z. I got a diagnosis. So my input wouldn't be authentic input. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be an experience-driven input.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to move us along. I got a lot to cover today. With you that I want to hear your feedback on. They have ASAN has a section called What We Believe, and this is where I'm pulling all this information from. And yes, like Kiki said, we will have a link in the comments. or in the description, actually. So they say, we are the experts. As autistic people, we know more about autism than anyone else. We know the problems that autistic people face and have lots of ideas on how to solve them. Some non-autistic people say they are autism experts and try to make policies about autism without talking to autistic people ourselves. These policies don't usually help us, and sometimes make things worse for us. This is why autistic people have to be involved in making policy. We have a right to our voices heard in the national conversation about us. There are no exceptions. So, as an autistic person, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so there's this autistic person. Her name's Susie Wing. She is Lorna Wing's daughter. Lorna Wing is the person who coined autism spectrum. She did not have autism, her daughter did. And I think that when you exclude non-autistic people or allistics from the conversation, you're excluding the most vulnerable. Susie Wing did not have achievements. She did not speak out in the conventional way. She did not, have awards, etc. She was just existing. She was simply being her. There was no extra pressure on her. There's no extra push for her to be something great or inspirational. But her mere existing, simply existing, motivated her mother enough to be like, hey, I think there's more to this autism thing, and created the autism spectrum. That was a holistic person that did that. So, because of being a caregiver to an autistic woman. When you don't let holistics into the conversation, you put all the emotional labor and requirements on autistic people who are simply trying to exist. We do not need to be inspirational. We do not need to create stuff. Sometimes just us existing in a world, influencing those around us, is enough. Thank you.
Wow.
I have a book coming out, and I have a full chapter on Susie Wing.
Do you really? Okay. Well, there.
I do.
Well, we're going to advertise that.
Plug.
I'm glad you did. I'm really glad. I knew you were writing a book, but I didn't know that was part of it. So, all right,
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, okay, you said it all. That was really good. And especially the part about leaving out people that can't advocate for themselves, which is actually a great segue into the next section. What is self-advocacy? Self-advocacy means taking control of our lives. That means we can make choices about how we live our lives, like choosing what we do at home, school, work, and in our relationships. It can mean working as a community to control how society views disabled people, how the media talks about us, and policies that affect our lives. ASAN works on both types of advocacy. We want to make sure that autistic people are included in all conversations about autism, whether those conversations are about our lives or autistic people as a whole in society. I'm going to include the next section because I think it's really important to this discussion. Self-advocacy is for everyone. Every disabled person is a self-advocate. There is no such thing as being too disabled to be a self-advocate. There are chances every day to self-advocate. Even saying no with your words or your actions is a kind of self-advocacy. We think everyone should get the tools they need to learn about all kinds of advocacy. I'm already triggered. We think everyone should get the tools they need to learn about all kinds of advocacy. Nobody should be denied the right to make their own choices just because of their disability. So yeah, we could talk about this for 5 hours.
Okay. So, there's this guy, and I've told Cindy about it. There's this guy, his name's Hugh Blair. And he was famous because he got married, and then the marriage was annulled by his brother. So he got married. It happened, I can't remember. Hold on. I'm Googling this to make sure I have the right date on this, by the way. So in 1736, Hugh Blair, who is presumed to be autistic by scholars because they looked at different parts of his life that didn't pertain to his mental health but pertained to other aspects of his life, and determined that he showed enough autistic traits that he could possibly have autism, was married in 1746, and his brother annulled the marriage in 1748 because he found out his brother just said yes to everything. He found out that his brother said yes to anyone who asked him to marry him. Because there is research that says that autistic people are more likely to say yes than no. Mm-hmm. it's a lot more complicated than I think how they simplify it. Like, I wonder if ASAN knows how complicated the topics are that they're talking on, if they know about Hugh Blair, if they know about the studies around autistic people usually saying yes because it's more socially acceptable, or they don't understand the pattern of behavior afterwards of what could happen. Because I know with me, adaptive functioning is very hard, so sometimes the outcome is hard for me to guess sometimes. Etc. And when I don't know, it's just the simplicity of it that makes me want to sit down with them and be like, do you actually mean literally what you wrote? Which, as an autistic person, I read it literally. I'm like, what? This is wrong. Right?
Yeah.
Are you oversimplifying a very complex problem within the community?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Alex is 35, and we are currently working very hard at generalizing his yes and no's into the community, and he still sometimes picks the wrong one that I know. Like, if I really know he wants something, he might say no. And or if there's something else, sometimes he's just careless with it too. And so we can't 100% count on the yeses and nos when you know about communication disability in autism the way that we do. You can see that trusting a no or trusting a yes for self-advocacy can be very dangerous. And even for them to say no as a kind of self-advocacy, one, you can't trust it, but two, saying no to a peanut butter jelly sandwich for lunch is way different than saying no to someone who wants to have a sexual encounter with you. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say informed consent, because, like, yes, they could consent, but how informed is the consent? And yes, we do presume competencies, but we do want to presume competency in situations where there won't be possible trauma. Like, we do, to an extent, have to have some sort of protection. Like, for example, like a kid who wants to go online with their parents, and the parents are like, you want to do it? And they're like, yeah. Is that informed consent? Do they really understand what the outcome could be if they are on and their family blows up or whatever, right? So, people without a disability get talked about with consent versus informed consent. It's a bigger topic, but as soon as a disabled person comes up and we're like, hey, we just want to double make sure that this is consensual, immediately people get angry about it. Immediately they're like, you're not presuming competency, you don't think that they can do this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, but if you know them, not random strangers, by the way, random strangers, butt out. But if you know them, and you know that every day your kid eats a jelly sandwich, and if he doesn't, then his routine's off, and he says no to it, you make that jelly sandwich and he still ate it.
Well, and so then their next section, I'll try to just summarize. It talks about some people need other people to help them with their lives, whether they have a disability or not. Some need more support than others. Then they go on to talk about guardianship and how that is wrong. So we believe this is wrong. Guardianship takes choices away from disabled people. Guardians could end up making choices for us that we don't want. Instead, we believe in supported decision making, which is they work with a group of people they trust to make choices about their life. So there's just so much to pick apart. Every single sentence I said, there's something you can counter with that. Number one, people, even autistic people who can speak and self-advocate, talk about not knowing who to trust. And you could talk about that probably even better than I can.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of times I've accidentally trusted the wrong people because I just believed in good intentions,
Right.
Got me every time.
Yeah. So, if even, people like you who are, fairly independent, just need a little bit of help and support in their lives, have children, things like that, even you struggle to know who to trust. How are we supposed to trust someone, know that someone, like Alex could know who to trust? If the mailman showed up with a Pop-Tart, that would be his best friend.
My plan is to come with Timmy's coffee, because You know he's never had Timmy's.
I know.
My plan is to win him over with Canadian coffee.
He will probably like it. Yes, you will.
Right?
You will be his bestie. Yes. Thank you for making my point. Exactly. So not everybody can do supported decision making. It is not possible for some people to participate in supported decision making. And what's wild is that people think that we just want to control our children. Do you know what I would give if Alex could like make his own decisions in his life? We don't want to do this. You know, I can't speak for everybody, but most parents that I know do not want to be making these decisions for our kids. We want them to go off, and we want an empty nest, and we want to be able to do things that other families do. We don't want to have to take care of our child for the rest of their lives. And then people like ASAN assume that we're trying to take their rights away from them. Like, why is that what they assume? That we don't want our kids to be, like, have autonomy? Of course we do.
And the interesting thing about that is, like, some people don't realize that I have autism, and I'll get the random comments from people who have nothing better to do, and they'll say, like, oh, one day your kid's gonna grow up and never want to talk to you again, and I'm like, good. And it's not that I never want to talk to my kid again, but that means that they're fully independent, that they're living a life with full autonomy. Like, yes. If they said that to me, I'd be like, I would respect that 100%.
I know!
Like, I would... Like, and it's not because I don't want to take care of them. It's not because I don't love them. It's because that would mean that they have something that I always wanted for them. So I'm always like, this is not a threat. This sounds like a good time. What are you talking about?
No.
All the times they would say that to me, I'm like, but I got a question.
Wait, really fast. I want to piggyback on that, and then hold your question. That makes me laugh so hard because that has been my response as well with Alex when people will come online and they'll say, oh, you're a terrible mother. I hope your son grows up to hate you, or to say that he hates you or that he wants to go no contact. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, he's 35. I'm his favorite person. But even if I wasn't and he said, I hate you, I'm going no contact, it would be a celebration. It would be the best day of my life.
You'd be like, this.
I know. I'd be like, cool. Because you know what? At least we could go somewhere with that, right? Maybe we could do therapy. Right? Maybe we could read some books together. I mean, there's opportunity to mend a relationship. Like, they think that's the worst thing in the world because in their mind, that's their trauma. They're bringing their trauma to us by saying, oh, I go no contact with my mom because I didn't get a diagnosis when I was younger. They just thought I was a troubled kid or whatever. We hear these stories all the time. And so they project their mama trauma onto us and assume that we are just like their parents, when most of the parents of autistic children that I know are fantastic people and would give their lives, literally would give their lives for their children to be able to speak at that level.
But I have a question about guardianship.
Yeah.
So, with guardianship, can you have multiple guardians? Because they said a support system. So does Alex have more than one guardian? So already, isn't there a middle ground at this point with these solutions? If they're saying, oh, we don't like guardianship, we want a support system. In my mind, like, Alex has siblings that put in their input. They have you. He has his dad. Like, there's a big support system around Alex that helps make decisions. So can we not find a middle ground, ASAN? Can we not find a middle ground? We know there's problems with guardianship, don't get me wrong. But the alternative is not better. It's just...
So let's take a little detour for a second. I have the leadership for ASAN up. Let's talk a little bit about why they're so disconnected to this community. So there's about 24 people listed on their website. They have over $1 million coming in and out every year. I know the budget of NCSA. It is a mere pennies compared to that. So they have a lot of money. They have a lot of influence. But I'm going to go through here. I highlighted their education. I just took that one fact. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to go, well, you know, you can be educated and still be autistic. That's not what I'm arguing today. I'm arguing about not arguing, but I'm highlighting presenting how there is some privilege. Like, if you look at a wheel of intersectionality, you will see that education is a privilege that people have. Communication is a privilege that people have. Being white is a privilege that people have. There are a lot of privileges that are in this group that we need to keep in mind when we have these conversations. So I'm just going to go through and read the education. I'm not going to say who it is. I'm just going to say what they are. So I will say the executive director, he received his master's in public policy. There's a couple of people that doesn't mention their education, but I think it's like maybe 3 people or so. And so this person, master's degree in public health, a degree in theater, film studies, and Russian history, a graduate with a degree in emerging media and communications, a master's degree in print journalism, a degree in civic media, a master's degree in social policy, a degree in English literature, master's in science, master's of science in public health, a bachelor's in chemical and biomolecular engineering. That's the same person. Bachelor's degree in sociology and government. I mean, like I'm like halfway through. I'm not even gonna keep reading these. Another bachelor's degree, another BFA, a BFA. I mean, they're just chock full. This one, a neuroscience PhD candidate at Vanderbilt University, and a summa cum laude. I think that's how you say that. Graduate of UC Berkeley. I mean, like, do I have to continue? Like, these people are so educated and so they have so much ability to self-advocate and come together and have their needs and policy be heard. Like, they're such a privileged organization.
Yeah. Well, and
I'm exhausted just reading all of these.
I'm sitting here with my university t-shirt on. So
that begs the question, what are these people thinking? Like, why do they think that they can speak for the entire autism spectrum when they have this many privileges at their disposal that most of the other side of the population doesn't have? Like, they are overgeneralizing autism so much to the detriment of a lot of people. I was told by a friend of mine who is autistic, I'll say her first name, Sarah, so you know who I'm talking about, who said that she tried to go to college and she tried to go to college and she took one class at a time and had supports and still couldn't do it. You know, there's a lot of people with just so much executive function problems or communication problems or all these things that doesn't allow them to be successful in a college, you know, a high academic, environment. But yet these people, it kind of drives me crazy that they have this much, you know, access to so many things that our kids and some adults will never have, and they think that they have a right to make these decisions without even consulting with parents and caregivers.
And I think that just brings it back to what they said when they said this doll fully represents the spectrum. Like that, I think we're bringing it back to that. Where like I would be fine with ASAN if ASAN was like, okay, we exist, but then they had to go after Autism Speaks, and it's like, no, they want to be the one and only. So it'd be different if ASAN wasn't treating it like a competition. I think that's the biggest problem, is that like multiple organizations need to exist. We need our local autism organizations. We need our state, or for me, province organizations. We need our federal organizations. And we need multiple ones so that one doesn't have a monopoly on advocacy. Because right now, advocacy is money.
I did a little research also about how ASAN was involved in the DSM-5, and that was very fascinating. I will put a link into the description as well. where I found this information. It's online, and it's in a book called, I actually have the book. So, Autistic Community and the
Yeah.
Neurodiversity Movement, Stories from the Frontline, by Stephen Kapp. So this whole book you can get online for free. So everything I'm saying is in this book. So there's one chapter in particular that is about the DSM-5, and so Ari Newman, I think that's how you say his name. I'm not exactly sure. Ari Newman, and was able to, and I think Stephen Kapp, I think that's the other person, was able to kind of insert themselves really into the conversation around the DSM-5. They were not officially part of the panel that was making the criteria, but they were at the meetings. They were talking to people during breaks and things like that. Again, all in this book. I'm not making anything up. Um, and eventually, they had so much influence on it that Ari was actually named as one of the people that contributed to the criteria. And so they very much wanted and supported the autism spectrum being all one thing. They didn't even want the levels of support. They advocated against levels of support. So that goes to show you how much they really, really wanted this to just be one spectrum with no differences whatsoever acknowledged. So it shouldn't surprise us that we now see them doing that very same thing, that they are saying, we're all the same. This is what autistic people want, whether or not they understand the positions that and the vulnerabilities that some autistic people are in on a regular basis. People like Alex, people like your kids, and a lot of people we talk to online just are in a much more vulnerable position than they will ever find themselves in. And it's heartbreaking seeing how much they advocate against things that our kids need. They are not advocates of our kids. They are not friends to our kids, and to autistic adults who do not see themselves represented by ASAN. And this is something we need to continue to talk about. And I'm really glad you brought it back to Barbie, because this is this kind of stuff that people don't talk about, and it's so important. Now, I will say something I agree with. Okay, I don't disagree with everything. I did put this in. Communication is a human right. Not every autistic person can talk, but every autistic person communicates in our own way. Some people need AAC. It's a way to communicate without talking, like picture cards, letterboards, or typing on an iPad. Communication supports. Anyway, people should never have to earn the right to communication supports. We want to make sure AAC is available for all autistic people and that they are supported to communicate in a way that works best for them. Now, I agree with so much of that, because I know Alex had to prove that he could use an AAC. He was denied AAC. Yeah, Alex had to earn the right to an AAC device, and I was persistent for years.
They weren't just giving them out to anybody.
And the iPad was not even invented until he graduated from high school. He left school, and then they invented the iPad. So this was something that was very, very hard to get. So I do agree with ASAN on that. What I don't agree with is that they believe that, and that's what they did with Barbie. They said, this is a way that some of us need to communicate. They said something like that. And they don't understand that AAC devices does not mean that they can now share all of their thoughts. That is not true. It is not proven. It is not scientific that all autistic people can share their thoughts. They just have to have the right method. Some people are going to disagree with that, but we can honestly say it's not scientifically proven that is the case.
I believe that all autistic people have the ability to communicate if given the right method once we figure out all the methods. Like right now, we're talking about a utopic future where anything is possible, right? but we're still at a point where we don't have it all.
So quickly, since it's going around, they're against ASAN's also against GPS trackers. I have some stats here. Children with autism are 160 times as likely to die from drowning as a general pediatric population. At least 71 children with autism drowned in the United States in 2024. So just because ASAN doesn't need trackers, they literally say, we don't want people to know where we go. Specifically, what they say is that trackers could be used to control where we go and what we do. We don't support any ideas that take away our privacy. They also say that about police, letting police know that there's an autistic person that lives there. So that plus GPS trackers, they are against. What they want is this utopian future, like what we talked about earlier. ASAN supports other ways to keep us safe in the community. This could include making our neighborhood safer, teaching us about safety, and giving us one-on-one support to help us the places what we want to go. So someone getting up in the middle of the night and busting through the locks on the door or whatever and getting out and running away, eloping, and drowning in water. Like there is nothing that can be done to prevent that in certain homes. There is no community unless we fence a community. So let's think of these options that they're talking about. Make a neighborhood safer. So we're going to fence the community. They can climb a fence, even if we did that. Teaching us safety. Well, we've already covered that. Not everybody knows what's safe for themselves. That's part of autism and part of the communication difficulties that autistic people have. That they may not be able to understand what is safe and what is not. That is a fact. So we cannot teach every single person about safety. Giving us one-on-one support to help us to go to the places we want to go. If a child's going to elope from the house, we can assume that there is a person there that would like to help them. If they are able to, but maybe they're cooking dinner. Maybe they're putting an online order for groceries. Maybe they're talking to an insurance person to get, services for their child or whatever. We don't know. Or maybe they're sleeping, for God forbid, And so we cannot give one-to-one support to every single autistic child or adult. A 30-year-old just drowned in the Rogue River last week. 30-year-old eloped from home. Drown in the Rogue River. There is no world that we live in right now that we can provide, especially with Medicaid cuts and just lack of services and the way we pay minimum wage to people to protect our children. I always like to say someone stocking a can of beans on a shelf at Walmart will make more than most of these people would make that are taking care of our kids. So what utopian world are they talking about?
I think when we get down to it, too, it's not a utopia world. Like, why are you taking away any options that we have? Like, it's a spectrum. Different things are going to work for different people. And maybe a GPS is the least invasive for that person. Maybe they don't want to feel caged or any of the other solutions that were given. Maybe a GPS is the best for them. And the fact that they say it's a spectrum, we all have different needs, but then get rid of our options that are not invasive options, because a GPS, a lot of kids don't even realize they have it. And to get rid of a non-invasive option when we have such diverse needs, like, it just seemed hypocritical to me. It seems hypocritical to be like, we have diverse needs, we all have different stuff that we need, and be like, but no GPSs.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what? Like, maybe that's the easiest for that family.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
I don't understand the taking away of options at this point. And that's the same with, like, the right to communication. I know we're coming back, but giving them all the options to find the method that is most effective to them.
Mm-hmm.
They have a right to all communication styles, because that's how you figure out what works for them.
And if they all can communicate like they can, again, we talk about the privileges. I just scrolled through their list of people. Majority are light-skinned, if not white people. Privilege, automatic privilege. education, privilege, ability to self-advocate, privilege, all these privileges that they have, yet they can't take the time and the effort to reach out to families. And if they have, I don't know about it, but I would assume it would be reflected in their advocacy if they did. You know?
I think, like, sit down with Angel Sense, like ASAN. Sit down with Angel Sense and talk to why that organization, why that company even exists that makes trackers. Like, do the groundwork, and they don't do the groundwork. You're right. They're not meeting people where they're at. They're not doing the groundwork. They're not doing bridges, right? I just want to point out one thing. It's a little off topic. Self-advocacy, making yourself visible when you want, that is a privilege. There's lots of people in our community who will never be able to make that choice or even be able to enact on that choice. Like, they're not able to make themselves visible, no matter how hard they try.
So, yeah, I mean, we really could talk about this. We probably will come back and cover ASAN again. I can't imagine that we won't, because I didn't even get to everything I wanted to talk about today.
ASAN, if you want to bring a representative onto the podcast, we'll be open. I just want to ask some questions. I want to give you guys a chance to talk. I want to give you a chance to explain your perspective on this. It would be great. So, ASAN, come here.
We have questions.
I don't know how to do it non-creepily. Like, how do I give a nice invitation?
Yeah, that's
like,
creepy.
Hey.
I don't think they're going to take it.
I tried. Look, I got dimples. I'm so cute.
You're adorable. I don't know how they could say
Come
no to you.
join me on the podcast.
I'll even go. Like, y'all can just meet with Kiki. You know, you guys can have a little sesh, and I'll just sit back and watch. You know, I don't even have to be here because I'm an evil autism mommy.
Because I don't know how to make this work. I have no clue how any of the editing goes.
I'll just sit back and watch it. But yeah, there has to be a moment where we just finally say, this is not working. This is not working for ASAN to have as much say as they do. Not a lot of people know how much of a stronghold they have in policy, because it makes sense, right? They say nothing about us without us. Yeah, okay, that's... But I mean, that makes so much sense, and I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem is it really translates to nothing about us without us who can speak for ourselves. And that's why they
who can become visible.
Right. That's how they try to have a stranglehold, is by saying there is no such thing as being too disabled to self-advocate. They take out our kids completely, those who cannot, or our adults. I don't want to keep saying kids, but they take out the people who cannot literally self-advocate on the level that they need to be able to self-advocate. They remove them by saying no one is too disabled to self-advocate. That gives them a free pass to say that we speak for everyone because everyone can self-advocate. And it's just not true. It's just not true.
We didn't talk that much about what the Barbie looked like, though. I'm just kidding. Maybe another episode.
I think everyone's sick of Barbie right now. Like, I don't even know. And again, I'm so tired of seeing people say, it's just a doll, it's just a doll. It's like, no, it's not. It's just a doll. Like, if you know what ASAN stands for, you know, for them to say that this, let's bring it back around, this fully represents the autistic community. They threw an AAC in their hand and said, look, it's high support needs or whatever. Like, just don't say that it fully encapsulates anything when it comes to autism. They, you know, just it's a doll.
Well, that's the thing, because I think it's modeled after an actual autistic person. From what I heard, I didn't actually look it up, but I think there's a girl who it's actually modeled after. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. But then don't add all of that other stuff at the end. You know, like that's the thing. Just don't add that you fully represent the spectrum, because I'm sure the person you modeled it after doesn't believe that. Doesn't believe that she's the only one who fully represents the community. So.
And I'm not going to claim that I've seen everybody who has this doll. There's no way that I could claim that. But I have seen enough people, the people that I see celebrating it are people with kids who can...
Who got the doll for free?
Well, there's...
Oh, sorry.
Shh. The people I see celebrating it are women, autistic women, late diagnosed women, young girls who can speak, and talk about how they like the doll. Siblings, we saw a sibling, adorable little sibling who says, my brother has this. That's adorable. I love that. I love that representation. Yeah. Absolutely love it. But I have yet to see a child who does not speak enjoy this doll. Like a real AAC user. And again, I haven't seen everybody, but I've been paying a really close attention the last couple of days.
So I saw one video, and they got like a free one from Mattel, and it was huge. It was in a huge box because it was like a free, I don't know, what would you call it, a promo box?
Oh, I saw that one. It's like a purple box. A girl who loves purple.
Yeah. So one of the kids opened it up, and they had like a fidget spinner in there, like a purse, like a couple other things, and the kid would not leave the fidget spinner alone. She didn't care. Like, the mom tried to give her the Barbie like 3-4 times, and she was just like into the fidget spinner. And I was like, you can't make the stuff that comes with the promo item more entertaining.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the only one where she was really into the fidget spinner. Yeah. I'd made that argument online about the adjustable wrist because they made so much more choking hazards in that doll, and it says 3+. And I was like, I don't think
in this community.
I was like, right? I was like, 3+ who? Like,
yeah.
No. Like, no. Even my one kid who doesn't have pica, I wouldn't have gave it to them at 3. They would not find motor enough, any of that, to play with the doll. Like, it wouldn't have been maybe a hazard, but the other one would, the hands would be gone. I'm sorry. And then we would have to go and figure out where the hands were medically.
Yeah.
Knows where, like, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. And that's going to be a future episode, too, because I know there's people out there that are going to say, oh, well, those are just comorbidities to autism. Autism, Kiki and I have been around long enough to say that this has been autism for decades, until recently. Now everybody wants to say all of these things, sensory thing, whatever, like, are all comorbidities. And it's not autism, and that's just not accurate. So, to sum up today, what would you say to sum up today?
I'd say, like, we can't have a spectrum where one person fully represents it. And by saying, like, oh, well, this is just the beginning, and we shouldn't be angry about it because then people won't... Like, I literally saw a TikToker say, oh, stop being angry about it because this is just the beginning. If you get angry, they're not going to do anymore. And I'm like... What? We can't even critique because we have to be good enough with what people have given us, or they just won't help us. And no, that's not going to happen. Trust us. If Mattel doesn't want the constructive criticism, or ASAN doesn't want the constructive criticism, somebody will. Like, somebody will hear your voice. So just do your thing and stop competing with each other, ASAN.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Work together.
Yeah. Teamwork. I mean, that's what we could hope. I mean, is that they would stop being so rigid, which can be an autistic trait. I know, right? Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. But hopefully we've given some people some things to think about and at least have some more critical thinking when it comes to things that they say and things that they back, and just instead of just saying, instead of just saying, oh, it's autistic people talking, we have to listen. And I feel like that's what Mattel did, is just like, oh, it's autistic people, they're going to tell us what's best. You know, it's like, speaking autistic people with college degrees, who some of them are self-diagnosed, that's what that represents. That group represents those people.
And I just hope, if you take anything from this podcast, you guys just take that it is opening conversations. You go forth and you say, I heard XYZ, and have an open discussion with people and come up with your own kind of ideas and conclusions. And it's okay to critique, bigger organizations. Like, it's okay. You can...
Yeah. It needs to stop being a battle for control. It's either Autism Speaks is bad or good, or ASAN's bad or good. Like, they can represent different people. It's okay. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And this conversation...
It's not like... it's like they're trying to fight for celebrity status and not advocating.
It's fighting for control. It's fighting for control of what autism is. And, but yet people are going to say... if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, but then expect one group to represent every single person. It's just not possible. Like, I think there's even a space for, National Council on Severe Autism and Profound Autism Alliance. People call them hate groups. Well, I mean, ASAN's not battling for the things that our kids need, so why wouldn't they exist? They have to exist. They exist because of this problem, Yeah. I don't know of a single parent who would choose to do this if they didn't have to. It's not like we want to advocate for our kids for the rest of our lives. We don't want to. I would love it if ASAN covered the things that profoundly autistic people need, or people with higher support needs, or whatever. I would love it, and then because we wouldn't have to do this anymore.
Well, that's what we're going back to, that emotional labor thing. Like, we're having to put labor in all the time, right? And it's just, sometimes we just want to simply exist too. Without constantly being a discussion.
Right.
So, but it won't be for a while. I don't see it in my lifetime, but I hope I leave it for my kids to pick up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something.
I just like that we can approach these off-limits conversations together, because I think they are important to have, and I appreciate you and the conversations that we're able to have, and bring different perspectives to it. And hopefully, people can learn that it can be done. You can be autistic, you can be an autism mommy, and you can still have similar ideas and work together for a common goal. And we just need more of this.
Yeah.
So.
Or diverse opinions, and be able to exist within the same advocacy world, so that everybody's needs or everybody feels represented. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay,
thank you, friend.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
And we will see everybody on the next episode of Autism Off Limits.